believe it's been 10 years. I mean, that's pretty extraordinary to me that I didn't think I'd be able to make it through 1 year, and now it's been 10 years. John and I met in high school. We met when we were juniors. We were in the same homeroom. And my best friend, Gail, was actually madly in love with him. So I was the mediator. I used to go into the locker room and say, John, you're going to call Gail? John, you're going to call Gail? So that was how I met him, acting sort of as a matchmaker. And then I would see him on and off because we had mutual friends. So after graduation, I would see him at parties that people would have. In 1985, we had our 20th high school reunion, and I was living out in the Boston area at the time, and was pretty ambivalent about whether or not I was going to come back to the reunion. But I decided at the last minute to come to the reunion. It was at Wyckoff Park, and something just clicked, and we danced and talked and realized we had a lot in common, and that was pretty much what started the friendship, which then grew into our partnership. We both loved the country. We spent a lot of time taking walks in the country, taking drives through the country. We both liked words. He was very witty, and I really liked that. I liked that he appreciated wit, and he had a very creative side to him that I really appreciated. Every Sunday afternoon we would take rides in the country, primarily to Ashfield, Conway, most of the hill towns. We had looked at property. So we were driving around in Worthington, and we saw a for sale sign on this little house, and it was a former one-room schoolhouse that had some additions put on it. So it actually had been built in 1812. And when we went to see it, this was one of the things that was so interesting, because what John said was he felt joy walking in there, and he thought it was probably from the energy of the kids that had been in there for all of those years, that one-room schoolhouse. So that place really clicked for us. We moved in on Saturday and Sunday, and he had also taken Monday off. So we knew we would need 3 days to move into the house. And Monday night, there was a huge ice storm. And so we both called into work. Neither of us went into work on Tuesday. We put up the Christmas tree that weekend because everyone was coming on Christmas Eve. Everyone was coming on Friday to the new house for Christmas dinner. So we'd gotten everything ready. So we had that extra day together, which in retrospect was a real gift. We were iced in. A friend of mine at work drove me to Bay State, and I remember walking in the door, and John's mother and sister June and her husband Snooky were coming toward me, and I remember looking at Snooky, and he said to me, "It's bad, Carol."
Then what happened?
That was it. I knew. I was not doing well. It came so completely out of nowhere. I don't think that I could. I don't think I took it in at all. Because we had just left this very idyllic scene. We had left that morning. We had left Worthington that morning. That was a really difficult, really difficult, because I do think we were all still in shock, and people were standing in line for hours and hours on Northampton Street. And so we were greeting people and through a line for 7 hours straight. And so really it was, I do think we were all on grief-stricken and on automatic trying to get through it. And then the funeral was the following Monday, and we had the procession from the funeral home down to the church. I remember being at Gettysburg, and I remember being on one of these battlefields with him, and him turning to me and saying, I've got goosebumps like I've been here before. And I'll never forget that, because then we're in this funeral procession, and people have lined the streets, and men had taken off their hats and were holding their hats over their chests. And I thought, oh my God, it's really like he was a soldier in a battle, and people are showing their respect in that way. He was kind. He was very kind, and I think a lot of the stories that came out after he was killed, I think that was one of the reasons it was so traumatic for the city, because he wasn't a hard cop. He was a really kind police officer. He really loved kids. When he was working in different neighborhoods, he really made friends with the little kids. And I think that was the hardest thing, that it wasn't someone that fit the, negative profile of a hard-ass cop. He wasn't that. He was really the kind of police officer that we remember from our childhood, that used to walk around and talk to us, As the years went by, I realized that I could really focus on the good things. I could really focus on the fact that we had many wonderful years together, and we did things that we wanted to do. So we didn't keep waiting for, we'll do that when we retire. We did travel a lot. We had wonderful experiences. We did finally find that country home. So those are all blessings. We did a lot of traveling. We went to Greece, went to Italy, to Rome, to Pisa, and went to Mexico quite a bit too. We hiked primarily in Arizona. We hiked the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. Almost every year we went back there, and we would rent one of those little cabins that was on the North Rim. I think that for me, writing has been the savior. The fact that I was able to talk about this process, this grief process, but in a way that was more transforming that process of grief into something that was art, was sacred, was something outside of myself, I think. It got me out of me. And then working with other people through that process has for me, moved me much farther along. So working with Voices from Inside and Morning Reflections and helping others through that process has been very helpful. The biggest regret for me is that he never got to do the things that we planned to do after retirement. So here's this very creative, funny man who wants to take a master gardening class, who really wants this life in the country, who's looking forward to living a different kind of life than being a police officer in Holyoke. And he never got to fulfill that potential. And that's the saddest thing for me. That's what he was robbed of.